Okay, here we go. Today, just want to offer a very straightforward trauma-informed yoga practice with a focus on ways that yoga can support people in recovery from substance abuse and are in sobriety. So, trauma-informed yoga is just an approach to yoga or really anything in life that comes from a viewpoint that the person you're speaking to may have some traumatic issues in their past, difficult childhood or difficult adulthood. Um, and there's just certain ways we approach the situation that is, calming to the nervous system, that makes it clear that the person doing the practice is in charge, the instructor is not in charge, and you make decisions and decide what to do, particularly in terms of your body, right? There's no, ordering anybody to lift their leg higher or bend their back more. It's all based on you feel what you feel, and then you decide what you do next and how far you want to go into it. And also, I mean, really, that's the key of yoga is learning how to care for ourselves, right? Listen to your body and know what your body needs and give your body the nourishment that it needs, whether that's like, food, air, water, what you read, what movies you watch, or your yoga practice, your physical practice is a type of nourishment as well. So just with that being said, want to get started here. So come to a seat, and it could be in a chair, it could be however you want. You decide what's right for you, but just somewhere you can sit nice and tall, upright. Okay. And just even here, taking a few breaths. And not directing the breath, not engineering the breath, but just noticing, what does it feel like to breathe for you right now? And you might feel that as like your rib cage expanding and contracting. You might feel it like you're rising and you're shrinking. You might feel it in your belly. You might even just feel air passing right at the entrance of your nostril. So you just notice how your body feels as it breathes right now. And then maybe beginning to let the exhale become longer than the inhale. And you can do that by counting your inhale to, say, a count of 4, and then exhaling to a count of 6. Or you can just intuitively do it without counting. And I suggest eyes are gazing softly at a spot, maybe across the room, or more likely, somewhat down towards the floor where you won't be distracted. You could also do this with your eyes closed, if that feels okay for you. Just a couple more breaths. And for the last few breaths, perhaps on your exhale, just let yourself feel more grounded, more in contact with your support, more in contact with the floor, the chair, the pillow you're sitting on. And we'll keep working with the breath. So releasing any practice you're doing and just breathe naturally. Let's go ahead and take our hands to, our knees most likely, depending how you're seated, and just sitting tall right here. Now when we inhale, we bring our heart forward and arch our back. There might be a little lifting of the chin, doesn't have to be much. So that's the inhale motion. When we exhale, we draw our belly, our chest back, we round our back. Tuck chin towards chest. Hands could even just pull on knees. And then inhale, coming forward again. Inhale, arch the back, come forward. Shoulder blades might start to kind of get closer to one another, squeezing on the back. And then exhale, rock back, tuck chin. And just a handful of these very slow, very intentional movements. And you might try inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. But if your nose is congested or just doesn't feel right, you just breathe as your body wants to, but you do want to connect breath and motion here. And go ahead and release that movement, coming back to seated upright. Before we get on to some bigger actions, let's just gently tip our left ear towards our left shoulder. And just stretching the side of the neck and see where it feels tight for you. For me, it's like right through here where the neck comes to the shoulder. Some of you, it might be at the jaw, some might be more in the shoulder. Wherever that feeling of restriction or tightness comes, don't fight it. Just kind of reach that limit, that sweet spot. And when you breathe, maybe you feel it tighten a little bit more. And then when you exhale, it can soften just a bit. And we'll just take several breaths here. If you want a little more sizzle in the work, you can take the right fingertips to the floor and just sort of stretch that muscle a little bit more. Breathing here. Placing fingertips, fingers back on lap. When we come out of these poses, it's very gentle, very slow. We bring the head upright, 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 upright to vertical. And even right here, after doing one side, just see if you feel a difference between your left side, your right side, neck and shoulder. And if you don't, it's fine. It might be subtle. Maybe you're so relaxed you didn't need to stretch. But you might feel something there. So then we'll go to the other side, right ear towards right shoulder. And again, eyes can be closed or gazing softly downward. And you're just looking for that sweet spot where you feel a good stretch happening, but you're not forcing your head over to the side too much. And you're certainly not in pain. If there's any pain or significant discomfort, you come out of the pose. But a little stretch, a little discomfort's okay. And again, if you want, you take your fingertips on the left side to the floor. And that will just sort of, make the stretch a little bigger. Again, bunch of breaths right here. And when you're ready to come out, take that left hand off the floor if that's where it is. And again, with lots of care, we come back upright. And maybe just kind of turn your head from left to right a few times. Continuing to release the neck and release the shoulders. Back and forth. And coming back to seated. Okay, now we're moving into some slightly bigger movements. Still seated. I should mention I'm seated on a block with a blanket on top of it, and I always suggest you sit on something when you're doing this floor work. Just keeping your hips a tiny bit higher than your knees takes a lot of stress and strain out of the lower legs. Okay, so let's take our left hand to the floor alongside us, and we'll just inhale, sweep the right arm up and over, and you don't have to go too far, but just sort of feel your way into it here. So there's a bit of a side bend here. And just stretch those right fingertips away. At the same time, our right hip, right buttock, staying firmly on the block or the support on your seat, doesn't lift off the floor. Okay, up and over to the other side we go. Right hand down, reach long through the left, and see maybe there's already a big difference, left side, right side. Very few of us are even close to symmetrical. We have lots of years of built up stuff on our different sides of the body. So just reaching here again, left hip towards the towards the ground, firmly connected, and reach through the left arms. Then we're just going to go up and over and go back and forth a few times. So a left hand down, right hand, inhale up and exhale, side bend over, reach through the fingertips. And then inhale back up, over to the other side. Right hand down, reach through the left hand. Back and forth. Let's just do several rounds of this. And you can see I'm starting to bend the elbow of the hand that's on the floor. You can choose to do that if it seems all right for you. It just enables a bit bigger of a side bend. And the other thing you can do is take the hand further away from you as you start to warm up and open up. And side bending over, and then up on the inhale and exhale to the other side. One more time, each side. And we started on the left, so we will finish on the right. And do try to keep that in mind when you're doing a practice. Come on up to seated. We do want to roughly treat both sides the same. We don't want to be off kilter, but we don't have to be fanatical about it. If things go awry, it's fine. Okay, so we're seated again, nice and tall. Take a few breaths. And it's a signature piece of this kind of work as we do some moves and then we stop and just feel the after effects or the residue or however you want to look at it. We do our movement and then we pause and we examine what happened. We examine how we feel now. And over time, we get better and better at sort of measuring that, like where we started to where we end up, and just noticing the difference in our body and our mind, in our mental state, however you want to see it. You might feel it differently, but there's definitely something like a distance we're traveling when we do this work. And we want to become aware of that so that can direct our progress, our practice as we move forward. Okay. And let's go ahead and come off the block at this point. And we'll just come onto our hands and knees. And shoulders are over wrists, hips are over knees, and we just arch the back towards the floor. Belly towards the floor might be a better way to describe it. And then we inhale, we draw our belly up, 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 and round our back, pushing into the floor and tucking our chin. Back and forth we go here. Inhale, arch the back, lift the gaze. Maybe your eyes are looking just a couple feet ahead of you. You don't want to look at the ceiling or anything. And then we exhale, we tuck, and we bring everything in. Back and forth. And again, you might choose to inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And you can always make sound when you exhale too. Don't be shy, especially if you're home practicing on your own somewhere. Feel free to exhale and just make some noise. Next time you're in cat, the arched back pose, let's just stay there for a few breaths. We're really connecting through the hands. Draw the belly up, round the back, tuck the chin. And how does it feel to breathe here? It's constricted in a way we usually are not. So notice how your body compensates for that. And when you're ready, come on out. Let's go ahead and extend the right leg back to the floor. And you can even stretch back into that heel. Push the toes down, heel back. And then rock back forward. When you're ready, we'll take the right leg up off the floor. And we don't want the hip open and the toes swinging out like this, right? We want toes down, that right hip point points down. And we just breathe here. You want the heel about the same height as your hips. And if you have the balance, reach the left arm forward. Bird dog or sunbird, there's a few different names for this shape. I suggest keeping your eyes on the floor for balance. And just hold it a couple more breaths. Releasing when you're ready. Hand down, knee down. You can always make movements and adjustments between sides, whatever you'd like to do. And get ready for the other side. So we go left leg back, left toes down, press through the left heel. Just get a good stretch right there. When you're ready, left leg comes up, parallel to floor, toes point down, and then reach with the right arm. Holding here. Firmly root through knee and hand. Find that stability. A few more breaths. Hand comes down, knee comes down. So from hands and knees, let's come into a puppy pose. So in puppy pose, hips stay over knees, right? You can tuck your toes like I do. You can have your tops of feet down. I like the toes tucked. I find it supportive of my knee joint, but you can certainly explore that for yourself. Puppy pose, take the hands forward, and we want a nice long spine, so rather than shifting the hips back, right, keep the hips high and take your hands long in front for this one. Next, fine-tuning, palms firmly to the floor, armpits lift. We don't want the shoulders down here. We want them up, 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 up. Armpits lift, and then the heart, the sternum, the chest come down. Big, long stretch. Take a few breaths right here. Maybe feeling the sensations in your palms, or your knees and toes, or maybe feeling something in your shoulders. And we'll take this into a side bend. So you might want to back out of the pose just a bit, and let's walk our hands over to the right. So I'm going to reach really long through the left hand to the floor, and the right elbow can bend. The right hand is like a kickstand, kind of helping us stay stable here. And so we lift that left armpit. You'll see it better when we do the other side. Same, trying to keep hips more over knees. Big, long stretch. And when you inhale, just feel that left side body fill up and expand and contract. One or two more breaths here, long from that left hip through your middle finger of your left hand. Big long line of stretching there. And then pushing yourself back up. And we just go across the midline to the other side. So left hand, left arm, kickstand, right hand reaches long, palm down. Again, don't want our arms sagging. Lift the armpit. And let the heart, the head, the chest come down. But mostly we're side bending here, right? So again, feel that stretch from the right middle finger to the outer edge of the right hip. And breathe and just feel this whole side body growing and shrinking. Keep the shoulder engaged. Come on out, back to the midline. And let's just take a quick child's pose. Big toes can touch, knees can go wide. This one, we do set the hips back and come forward. And now you can maybe rest your forehead, in your hands. You could put a block for your forehead or some other thing like a pillow or a folded blanket. You could try to have your forehead come to the floor.
More often than not, I like to stack my hands and rest my forehead there. Just breathe and release. And lifting up, rising up when you are ready. And coming up to upright. Noticing that shift, heads over heart. Now, how does it feel? And let's go ahead and come forward. We'll just do a quick back bend sequence here on the floor, just coming all the way down to a prone position on our belly, tops of feet down. Starting with a wide-armed cobra, let's take our fingertips off the mat, elbows over wrists, and your feet, maybe hip-width apart, tops of feet firmly rooted. When we inhale, we press a little into the fingertips, but mostly we're lifting with our back. So we start to lift the chest off the floor, keep the chin tucked, and just find your sweet spot. Exhale, release. Inhale, lift and rise. Exhale, release. And 3 more. Inhale, lift and rise. Exhale, release. Don't have to come up that high. We're keeping the elbows bent in this wide-armed version. And releasing back to the floor after 5. Now we'll place our palms on the mat, not as far up as the shoulders, right? Draw the palms back towards the side ribs. Elbows come in. They don't fling out like chicken wings here. Elbows in. Legs strong. Tops of feet to the floor. Inhale. You can even try this. Take your hands off the floor and just lift the heart and just see where you go. And that's what your back body is doing for you. And placing the hands down, elbows stay in. You can shift a little weight to the hands, but keep the back muscles working, coming into your cobra. And it might be down here, it might be up here, it might be way up high. Just holding your cobra. Legs are still strong. Draw belly towards spine, support the low back. Maybe your eyes are a couple feet in front of your mat. And release when you're ready. And just rest forehead on hands. We're going to do one more cobra. Can't do something just once. But in between poses, any movements that feel good, if you want to stretch your arms out or something, go right ahead. And then hands back to the floor, elbows in, legs strong, pushing into the tops of the feet. The knees might pop off the ground, and you'll feel this contact here in your front of your pelvis. So again, elbows in, starting to lift, really using back strength first. Okay, come up, come up, come up. Find your cobra, shifting some weight to your hands, but not all of it. Maybe pulling hands towards hips, bring your heart forward. Legs are strong, elbows in, shoulder blades come together. Tops of shoulders away from ears. Breathing here. Three more breaths. And releasing when you're ready. Back down to the floor. Go ahead and stack your hands. Rest your forehead on your hands if you like. And from here, pressing up, back up to say hands and knees. Okay, now I am going to take a couple blocks for the next pose. I suggest you find something, if you don't have blocks, which I highly recommend getting some blocks. If you don't have them, yeah, maybe some books if you have books, or uh, something for each hand is really great. You don't have to, you'll see where we're going here. So when you are ready, let's go ahead and take the left foot to the floor. Clear my blocks so you can see what I'm doing. Left foot down, right under left knee. Let me turn my blocks up nice and high. My right knee stays on the floor for now. Blocks nice and tall. And we're just going to kind of cycle through some lunges and stretches here. So inhale, lunging forward. Lift the spine, lift the gaze. And exhale, we're going to rock back. And this might take a little adjustment the first time through into like this kind of runner's stretch, right? So again, this leg is kind of straight. Toes are maybe off the floor, don't have to be. So there's a stretch right here. And then we rock forward on our inhale, lift the gaze, lift the heart. And exhale, we rock back into the stretch. And it might take several rounds to start feeling like comfortable doing it. It might feel kind of awkward at first, that's fine. Let your body learn this movement. Great one to do all the time. If you're on a hard floor, you might want to pad your knee with a blanket or something. And then this time we'll rock back and we'll stay in the runner's stretch just for a few breaths, and feel free to make some adjustments. Maybe walk that front foot forward a little bit. Hands on blocks or other support. You can do it to the floor. That can be asking a lot, and you don't want to overdo it here. You don't want to overstretch and harm yourself. So always bringing some support in is a good idea. Okay. So the heel of the front foot, left foot pushing down into the floor. You'll feel the muscles kind of come to life through your leg. And having those muscles engaged helps you protect your joints, protect the muscles, and it will actually lead to better flexibility, better mobility over time, rather than just like forcing ourselves into some long stretch that the muscles really aren't ready for. Okay, so we're going to come on up out of there and just switch it over to the other side. Right foot forward, left knee down. Again, blocks, maybe tall blocks, maybe short blocks. Here we go. Inhale, lift, heart. Exhale, rock back. Again, might have to make an adjustment, especially the first time through. Back and forth. A lot of times we'll say, never let this front knee go past the ankle, but that doesn't really apply when our other knee is on the floor. It's really only when we're weight bearing. We can talk more about that when we come up off the floor here in a second. But with the left knee down, it's okay to let the right knee slip past the ankle. Maybe two more, and then we'll come into that stretch. And you might be very aware at this point that one side of your body is different from the other, which is pretty much the norm. So again, we're coming into the back stretch here, the long stretch. So adjusting that front foot, I tend to scooch mine forward a bit, trying to let the hips stay kind of over the knee back here. Pressing down into the heel, bring that right leg to life. Adjust your blocks, maybe they go a little further, maybe they come back more. But there's a pushing down into the heel and like a little bit of a dragging the heel towards your body. So there's a pulling back isometrically there. Breathing here, another breath or two. And then release, release, release. Let's go back to that first side. Take the left foot forward, right knee stays down. Blocks are here. We're going to pick up the back knee this time. Back knee comes off the floor. Let's keep that back heel high. And for balance, they say, find yourself on train tracks, not a tightrope, right? Have your feet a little offset towards the hills of the mat so that you can find your balance, keep nice and stable. So I'm going to do this. Let's go ahead and slowly lift and rise. I'm going to take my block with me. If you have a block, great. If you don't worry about it. Coming up to upright. I'm going to bring this hip forward. Back heel is still off the floor. Now I have a block. If you don't have a block, you'll just do an interlaced hands thing with this. So with the block, I'm just going to lift it up and over, place it right behind the back of my skull, and just hold it firmly between my hands, finding balance here. I like to take my elbows wide and push my head into the block. And if you're doing so, just feel that pressing into the block. Find your balance. If you don't have the block, you just interlace hands behind head, and same thing, elbows wide. And here we are. Push head into hands, elbows wide, a little bit more of a back bend if it's okay for you. Really feel your way through this one. Back leg strong, like someone could just sit on your thigh and it's like a bench, it wouldn't budge. Elbows wide. Little lift of the heart, little lift of the sternum towards the sky. Slowly coming out the way we came in. Release the hands or the block. And come on down to the floor. Drop the back knee. Switch it over, other side. Left knee down, right foot forward. I'll do this side without the block entirely, but I do really like the block. It's a great option. So here we are. Back knee comes up. Heel stays high. Find appropriate width for your feet. When you're ready, we start coming upright, taking the block with you if you're using one. And just find your stability here before we start with the arms. When you're ready, either block goes behind head or interlace hands behind head. And just kind of cradle your skull, elbows nice and wide. Strong back leg. And then press head into block or hands. Breathing here. Steady and strong. Calm mind, even though the body's working like crazy. 2 more breaths. When you're ready, slowly come out the way we came in. Hands down, drop the back knee, and a quick child's pose, especially if you're feeling, like that was a fair amount of work for you. Just resting in child's pose. And again, forehead to hands, forehead to block, forehead to floor. Do try to get the hips, down to the heels as much as possible. Breathing here. And rising up, rising up, rising up. Maybe just seated for a moment. You can either sit with your hips on your heels, tops of feet down, if that's at all possible for you, or better yet, tuck the toes, heels come up, legs come together, and we sit back right there. And this can be rough. This can be a tough one, and it might not even be possible for some of us. So you could take a blanket or a cushion or a bolster, something like that. Makes it more approachable if we put something between our calves and thighs, not coming back quite so far. But open up that plantar fascia, open up the toes. Great, great work for, building a long, healthy life. Strong feet, strong ankles, strong toes. Find that capability so as we get older, we don't trip and fall, we don't stumble, and we don't, end up cracking a hip
much earlier than we should, or getting hip replacements, and all kinds of stuff happens. So anyway, inhale, sweep the arms up. Interlacing hands, let's press the palms towards the ceiling. Vajrasana, thunderbolt pose. Breathing here, lifting, lifting, lifting. Hips stay down towards heels as the hands press up. And undo the hands, release. Come on out, setting your props aside if you have any there. Taking hands to the front of the mat. And let's get it ready for our first down dog. Hands to mat, toes tucked, knees can just hover off the mat for starters, right? Press, hips go back, 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 back. Knees can stay deeply bent. And then when you want to, you can just start lifting the hips, straightening the legs. I suggest taking your feet kind of wide, maybe not to the rails of your mat, but close to it. Firmly root. Whole hand is on the floor. Right? Maybe the middle of the palm has a little popping up, but the knuckles are down, the fingers are down, thumbs, everything's on the floor. Again, you can definitely just keep your knees bent. Maybe straighten one leg and bend the other, and then switch. And just walk it out back and forth a couple times. Open the back of the leg. And coming back to down dog again, you do not need straight legs. That's kind of the final piece of the puzzle. Better to have a long spine and slightly bent knees. When you're ready, from our downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana, just walk the feet towards the hands. Come on up into a halfway lift, hands on shins, and reach the crown of your head forward as your hips shift back, and then folding as deeply as you can. Again, legs can be a little bent, don't lock the knees. And your hands may come to the floor, then maybe they stay on the back of your calves. You could choose to hold elbows. When you're ready, let's take a bend in our knees. Hands can come to hips, and we'll just come up to standing. And a few breaths in Tadasana. Arms down by side. Palms can be forward or they could be facing your body. That's fine. Breathing here. And just again, taking this opportunity to feel whatever is going on in your body right now. And it might just be like kind of a cascade of energy from your head downward, or just the sort of feeling of equilibrium, finding your equilibrium as we come back to a position with head over heart, heart over feet. We've been down low for a while. So here we are, coming to the top of our mat. And we'll just do a very, very basic sun salutation. So let's go ahead, inhale, sweep the arms all the way up. Palms face one another. Exhale. It's a big dive, swan dive style thing forward. Into a fold. Inhale. Halfway lift the back. Stretch the spine. Exhale. Bend knees, hands to floor. Step back to a plank pose. Inhale. Press the floor away. And then exhale. Slowly lower. All the way to your belly. Inhaling into a cobra as we did earlier. Exhaling out of your cobra. Inhale, we press back to knees and lift knees up. Downward facing dog. Exhale here. Inhale, stepping feet to hands and coming into a halfway lift. Exhale, folding deeply. I like to soften my knees when I come out of these poses. Inhale, Sweep the arms up and draw hands together down to heart. And take a breath. That'll be our sun salutation for today. If you're not familiar, there's like myriad variations of sun salutations out there. But they're all similar in that they're just a linked series of movements, usually quite symmetrical. And you just do them. You breathe, you move, you breathe, you move, you breathe, you move. So here we go. And I'll just do a few rounds. How about 3 rounds? Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, big fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands down, plank pose. Press the floor away through the inhale. Take your full exhale to lower your belly. Inhale, cobra. Elbows in. Exhale, come on out. Pressing back to downward facing dog. And you can choose your way to get there. Inhale here. Exhale. Next inhale, go ahead and just walk feet to hands. Come on up into the halfway lift. Exhale, folding deeply once again. Inhale, lifting all the way up. Hands to heart. Inhale, right into the next one. Up we go. Exhale and fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands down, plank pose. Inhale, hold plank. Exhale, slowly lower. Inhale, cobra. Exhale out. Pressing back to knees or pushing up right into down dog, your choice. It's about a breath cycle here. Inhale, step feet to hands, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Soft knees, sweep your arms and rise up. Hands to heart. Into the next one. 2 more. I'll cue it less. I suggest just kind of feel it in your body. You can always look here to see where we're at. Exhaling, fold. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, plank. Lower to your belly. Rise into cobra on an inhale. Exhale out. Downward facing dog. 1 breath. Hips high. Walking feet to hands. Halfway lift. Folding deeply. Soft knees to rise up. Hands to heart. 1 more time. Last time. Inhaling up. Folding forward. Halfway lift. Plank pose. Hold for a breath or an inhale, then lower. Inhaling into your back bend. Exhaling out. Pressing back. Downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Walk feet to hands. Halfway lift. Deeply fold. Soft knees. Rising up. And drawing hands to heart. And just take a few breaths. Maybe your eyes are closed, softly looking downward. If the hands at the heart doesn't feel right to you or authentic, just let your hands come down by side. Your choice. I haven't spoken much of the recovery piece, but there is that kind of surrender in recovery. I think this hands to heart gesture does kind of embody that nicely. It's a bit of a prayer pose, but who or what you're asking for help from or seeking support of is your choice. but just realizing there's something out there to help us. Release the hands if they're not already there. And let's go ahead and you might want to block again, or some sort of support. Could also be a chair, a coffee table, a robust dog, maybe. Let's step our feet wide. And feet are basically parallel or toes turned in. And just hands to hips for starters. How about stay nice and tall right here? When you're ready, we'll go ahead, take a little bend in the knees, soft bend. And we're just going to fold forward at the hips. You want to feel these hip points if your hands are there. They're coming forward, coming forward, coming forward. This little angle between thigh and hip point, closing, closing, closing. And then you see where you are, all right? So back is more or less parallel to the floor, and you can certainly put your hand on the support. Again, blocks, pillow, coffee table, chair, books, you name it. And just come into this halfway thing. You could also just go without the block, maybe fingertips to the floor. So we're halfway there. We're not really deeply folding just yet. We have our back parallel to the floor. Go ahead and soften the knees. Let your kind of belly or ribs come a little closer to the thigh there, and then pressing into the mound of the big toe, re-straighten the legs. Hands just stay on the floor, or on block, of course. Bend one more time, re-straighten. Hips lift a little higher, perhaps. One more time, bend the knees, sink the hips, re-straighten the legs. Just finding your shape for today. Again, we're not deeply folding just yet. Let's keep our left hand to the floor, take our right hand to our hip, and just turn, look over to the right. Trying to get this right shoulder up and over, opening, twisting, more in line with the left arm. And if it's right for you, the right hand can reach up. Big twist. Exhale, gently come on down. Switch, right hand down, left hand to hip or sacrum. Twist, twist, twist. See how that feels. If it's right for you, left arm reaches up, and just hold for a breath or two. Come on down. Let's go to each side 2 more times, a little more quickly than that. So we'll go ahead and twist, look over to the right, unfurl that right arm towards the sky, twisting deeply. Exhale, come on down. Other side, twisting to the left. Come on back around. One more time on each side. And hands back to floor. Now we will fold pretty deeply. So again, if you have blocks, this is a great time to use them. I like to stack them like something like this, little construction project. I'm going to fold. I'm going to have kind of my hairline land on a block. And it might need to be pretty tall. Right? Hairline to the block. It might be a little lower. And sometimes once you settle into the pose, you can choose to go a little lower. And find your balance. So it's not like you're tipping forward onto your head. You're still shifting weight back somewhat as well. Now, if you don't have blocks or some sort of support, that's totally fine. You'll just come folding a little more deeply. Without the support, which has some other benefits, it kind of releases tension throughout the whole cranium when we put a little pressure there. So there's upsides. It's not just it's not a crutch by any means. It has different actions to use the blocks or use a support, so don't avoid it because you think it's not the real pose. But if you don't have something to use, you just fold deeply. Maybe take your hands back so they're in line with your feet.
I want to stay here maybe 10 breaths. One last modification if you want. You can just have your hands hold your elbows. About halfway through, if you want to make any other adjustments. And we take our time coming up from inversions like that. So come back up to this halfway shape. Take a nice inhale there, and then you can just gently move your heels and toes towards one another, bringing your feet together. Eventually, take hands to hips. Come all the way up to standing. Just a few breaths into Tadasana. And just notice how you feel now, or ask yourself, how does it feel now? Let's come back down to a seated position on the floor. Again, if you have a block, I recommend sitting on a block or a bolster, a cushion, a pillow, a folded blanket. Sitting on something nice and tall. Exhaling and letting our weight come downward. Just feeling that grounded connection through the earth. With our inhales, the spine gets taller. And let's go ahead and just take a twist. You pick a side, just twist, twist, twist. Sits bones, hip bones there stay firmly planted as we twist to one side. And then twist to the other. One more time to each side. And you just have a breath or two or three in each direction as you twist. And when we twist, we still keep a tall spine. Come back around to the front. And let's come on down to the floor, onto our backs for the final resting pose. All the way down. And maybe starting with feet on floor just to release the low back. When we extend the legs, it might cause some tightening of the back muscles. So start here. Feet down, knees up. Let your knees tip into one another. Hands maybe on belly or down by side. And when it's right, you extend one leg and then extend the other. Coming into Shavasana. If it feels like your chin is really rocking away from your chest in this pose, just find a little something, a little folded blanket, a folded towel, a very small pillow, and just lift, prop your head. Again, this is the pose, right? The pose isn't to force yourself onto the floor. The pose is to find this proper alignment, which includes, this distance from chest to chin with a nice long back of the neck. So breathing in your Shavasana. And resting here.
And a few more breaths before we start to move again. Ideally, Shavasana is many minutes, but at least give it 2 or 3, as much as you possibly can. When you're ready to come out, we take our feet to the floor, knees bent, and we just roll to our side body. The classic recommendation is to roll to the right, to your right side, but the camera's not on my right side, so I'm on my left. Either way, take a few breaths lying on your side body, and then we'll use the strength of our arms, pushing into the floor to press ourselves up. And the head is the last thing to come up all the way. Last breath or two as we sit. Thank you for doing this practice. Please leave comments, send me any messages. I'd love to hear from you. And check out some of the other practices on my YouTube and my website and TikTok and everywhere else, Facebook. So, all right, thank you so much. Take care.